A major shift in American firearms policy has arrived, marking a pivotal moment in the ongoing debate over gun rights and regulations in the United States. On July 4, 2025, President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law. This sweeping legislation repeals the long-standing $200 tax stamp for suppressors, short-barreled rifles, shotguns, and other items previously regulated under the National Firearms Act, or NFA. The law, which takes effect on January 1, 2026, is being hailed as a monumental victory by Second Amendment supporters, who have long argued that such taxes unfairly penalize responsible gun owners. For decades, the NFA tax was a costly and time-consuming barrier for law-abiding citizens seeking to own these items for sport shooting, hunting, or personal defense. Many felt the process was burdensome, requiring extensive paperwork and long wait times. Now, with the financial hurdle removed, these firearms and accessories are expected to become far more accessible and affordable to everyday Americans, opening up new opportunities for enthusiasts and collectors alike. The $200 tax, which had remained unchanged since 1934, was widely viewed as both outdated and punitive, a relic of a different era in American history. While some regulations and background checks will still apply, the repeal of the tax stamp is seen as a crucial first step toward modernizing and simplifying the nation's firearms laws. Gun owners, industry leaders, and retailers are celebrating the change, anticipating a surge in interest, sales, and participation in shooting sports across the country. This landmark change is set to reshape the consumer firearms market, influence future policy debates, and redefine how Americans interact with NFA regulations for years to come. The tax repeal moved swiftly through Congress, propelled by a sense of urgency among lawmakers who saw an opportunity to deliver on a key campaign promise. The momentum behind the bill was unmistakable, as both chambers prioritized the measure on their legislative calendars. The effort was led by a determined Republican majority, who rallied their caucus and worked to ensure party unity throughout the process. Behind closed doors, party leaders coordinated strategy and built consensus, determined to see the bill through. By embedding the measure in a budget reconciliation bill, lawmakers bypassed major hurdles and passed it with a simple majority. This legislative maneuver allowed them to avoid a filibuster in the Senate, streamlining the process and minimizing opposition from across the aisle. An earlier push to fully deregulate suppressors was blocked by Senate rules, so the compromise was to eliminate the tax but keep the NFA's regulatory structure. This approach balanced the demands of gun rights advocates with the realities of the legislative process, ensuring the bill could advance. This pragmatic solution allowed the bill to proceed and deliver a tangible benefit to gun owners who had long argued that the tax was an unnecessary burden. For many, it represented a meaningful step forward, even if it fell short of total deregulation. The House and Senate acted quickly, sending the bill to President Trump for a symbolic July 4th signing. The timing underscored the administration's support for gun rights and added a patriotic flourish to the legislative victory. While not full deregulation, repealing the tax is seen as a monumental victory for gun rights supporters. The move energized activists and was widely celebrated as a significant rollback of what they viewed as outdated restrictions. The legislative process showcased the party's commitment to Second Amendment priorities, highlighting their willingness to use every available tool to advance their agenda. It also demonstrated the influence of grassroots advocacy in shaping national policy. Supporters celebrated the signing as a historic moment, gathering outside the Capitol and across the country to mark the occasion. For many, it was a day to remember. The law's passage marks a fulfillment of a long-standing goal for the gun rights movement, and its impact will be felt for years to come as advocates continue to push for further reforms. The most immediate and noticeable change is the elimination of the $200 tax for NFA items, a fee that has been in place for nearly a century and often acted as a barrier for many gun owners. Starting January 1, 2026, buyers will no longer need to pay for a tax stamp when purchasing suppressors or short-barreled rifles. This means that, for the first time in decades, acquiring these items will be significantly more affordable for law-abiding citizens. However, it's important to note that the NFA's regulatory framework remains firmly in place. The rules and restrictions that have governed these items for years are not going away. Buyers must still submit detailed applications, provide fingerprints and passport-style photos, and undergo enhanced background checks as part of the process. the process remains more involved and time-consuming than buying a standard firearm, requiring patience and attention to detail from applicants. Registration and approval by the ATF are still required, and with the expected increase in applications, wait times for approval may actually grow longer as more people take advantage of the tax savings. The law separates the financial burden from the regulatory process, but the core legal status and oversight of these items is unchanged. The government will still track and regulate ownership closely. Gun owners will save money, but they must still comply with all federal regulations, paperwork, and background checks to legally possess NFA items. The new landscape offers meaningful financial relief for enthusiasts, but it does not mean deregulation. The rules remain strict and compliance is still essential for all. With the tax repealed, gun rights groups have launched lawsuits to challenge the NFA's registration and background check requirements. Their argument, without the tax, the NFA's constitutional basis is gone. Major organizations like Gun Owners of America and the NRA are leading these legal battles, aiming to dismantle the federal registry and transfer rules. If successful, suppressors and SBRs could be bought like any other firearm, with only a standard background check. These lawsuits represent a united front and could reshape federal firearms law. The cases are expected to reach the Supreme Court with far-reaching implications. The future of the NFA's regulatory framework now hangs in the balance. Supporters hail the tax repeal as a historic win for gun rights and public safety. They argue suppressors protect hearing, and SBRs aid home defense, with little evidence of criminal misuse. Gun rights groups see the change as correcting a historical injustice. Critics, including Everytown for Gun Safety, warn that easier access to suppressors and SBRs could endanger public safety. They fear these items will be used in crimes and make law enforcement's job harder. Opponents argue the NFA's barriers kept dangerous weapons out of the wrong hands. The debate highlights America's deep divide over firearms regulation. Both sides are mobilizing for the next phase of the fight. The federal tax repeal doesn't override state and local laws, which still hold significant authority. Suppressors and SBRs remain illegal in several states, including California and New York, regardless of federal changes. State laws take precedence, and violations can lead to serious penalties, including criminal charges and fines. The legal landscape is complex, especially for those traveling or moving between states with different regulations. Some states have added new restrictions, even limiting communication about firearms and related topics online. Legal battles over these state laws are ongoing, extending the fight beyond hardware to free speech and digital rights. In states where ownership is legal, the repeal makes NFA items more accessible to law-abiding citizens. Nationwide uniformity remains distant as state legislatures and courts continue to debate and shape these issues. The $200 NFA tax, dating back to 1934, was designed to restrict access to certain firearms during an era of gang violence. Originally a massive sum, it functioned as a de facto ban for most Americans. Over time, the tax's impact faded, but it remained a significant barrier. The repeal marks a dramatic shift in public and political attitudes toward NFA items. Suppressors are now seen as hearing protection, and SBRs are popular for sport and defense. The change reflects evolving views and growing acceptance of these items. Legal challenges may further reshape the landscape, but for now, the end of the tax is a powerful symbol of reform. For gun owners, it's a long-awaited victory and a sign of changing times.